What's going on, party people? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming at you with another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. Hope you guys doing well. I'm smiling because I'm trying to bring a little bit more energy. I was a little low last week. I'm not going to be low energy anymore because this is what it's all about. Bardo's Breakdown, baby. Talking college basketball, Big Ten hoops. We got a good show today, man. You can see the rundown on the right. Nebraska assistant coach Nate Linder. We got an interview with him. We do Jon Rothstein dropped some Big Ten power rankings that I found to be pretty interesting. I think you will as well. NCAA makes changes to the scholarship limit. We've got the next 5 in the top 50 all-time Big Ten players. And we got some Flyin Illini stories. And guess what, y'all? I think I figured it out. We got the poll going today, so it'll be a fun one. So make sure you go to Kahoot.it to use for the web browser, or go to Kahoot and download the app. Okay. So we're going to have fun with this today, but we're going to start off with this interview. But Ryan, hit that intro for me, partner. Two, one. Welcome back to another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. I'm your host, Stephen Bardo. I'm pleased to be joined by my man, Nate Linder, Nebraska assistant coach. Nate, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing great, bud. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic that you're joining me. You know, we talk a lot in the Big Ten conference about various programs and whatnot, and there were various teams that did a lot of had a lot of transfers and roster turnover. Yours is one of the busier teams, Coach. You guys did an outstanding job bringing 6 new players in, plus some freshmen. And I really want to break that down here a little bit later, but I want to give our viewers a sense of your background, Coach, and you know how you got into the game. I know that you were an outstanding 4-star athlete in high school, played baseball at Iowa State, but how did you transition from playing baseball at Iowa State to becoming a college basketball coach?
Yeah, I always used to joke, my favorite sport was whatever season it was. So I played football, baseball, basketball, and golf in high school, and just had a passion for it early. Just really wanted to stay active, wanted to stay involved. I probably had my most success in the other sports. I lettered earlier in high school and specifically baseball and even football, but basketball was kind of maybe my biggest passion for whatever it was growing up. Even if it was, football season, I was still sneaking away for an open gym or finding a pickup. Or baseball, we played in the summer in Iowa, so I still had to work on my basketball game in the summertime too. And luckily we didn't have lights, so I could, for my baseball program, so I could still get my runs in that way too. So so when I decided to go to college at Iowa State, my summer baseball, we had high school ball in the summer, and I didn't have a great junior year. So I batted .289 my junior year. I actually batted .081 my sophomore year. And because I switched from right-handed with a prosthetic to left-handed without a prosthetic. So I had to make some adjustments, but I still played because I could field and run. And so with a junior year of .289, that wasn't something that was going to get a lot of college recruiters notice. But I had decided even in that spring, I was going to go to Iowa State and be a manager for Tim Floyd at Iowa State. But then that summer I blew up and batted .596, stole 60 bases. But so there was an element of, I knew I was going to Iowa State to be a basketball manager because I wanted to get into college coaching. But then there was kind of this this voice in the back of my head saying, should I check out this baseball thing? So I went to Iowa State. I was a manager for a little while, came in with Marcus Fizer, that crew, Martine Rancic, some good players there. But I realized pretty quickly that I at least wanted to give it another go. So I stopped being a manager. I started training again for baseball. And I tried out for the Iowa State baseball team as a sophomore. Didn't make it. And then 2 years later, I'm playing pickup basketball of all things. And that's how I got on the Iowa State baseball team. One of the coaches saw me playing basketball, and I had played summer baseball against them, and it was in the middle of the season, and the coach said, "Hey, we need you on this team." And then they shut the program down, and the rest is history. But I was a head varsity baseball coach at the age of 20 at my high school, and then at age 21 I was a head varsity basketball and baseball coach. So like I said, whatever season it was always my favorite sport. I had a passion for all of it. I've coached some assistant football, assistant girls golf coach even in my past. So I've had kind of a winding turn, but at the end of the day, I always felt that coaching is teaching, and no matter what the sport was, I wanted to try to help young people and help them reach whatever their potential was. And the passion was always there for basketball, but yeah, I do have some baseball in there, and I think it's helped me too, just as I've moved on my path, being a football player, being a basketball or a baseball guy too, just being able to use different parts from different games to be able to get our message across. That's what coaching and teaching is all about. And I think there's a lot of great teachers and motivators and tactical people out there. If I can help that to meet my learners wherever they're at, then that's my biggest goal.
Well, Coach, I mean, to have a coaching opportunity at 20 years old and then to be a head coach over 2 different programs at 21, that's throwing you in the fire pretty early. What do you remember about those early years coaching that you utilize to this day?
Yeah, I mean, and this is, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit, even when I was at G League, control what you can control, stay organized, and stay positive. Those are the biggest things. And even at an early age, at age 20 or 21, I tried to be myself, whoever that was. And I think that's one of the biggest things I take from being a coach even today. If I don't know something, don't try to be someone that you're not. Try to be you, try to be the best version of you. And obviously at a young age, I didn't want to hear the experience word, because that was an excuse, and that was something I couldn't even combat, really. You just had to go through it. But the way I tried to accelerate my learning curve at an early age was just be a student of the game, research, go to as many practices, look at other successful coaches and teachers. And my mom was an elementary teacher. I was an elementary PE teacher. I do believe in being a lifelong learner, and whether it's high school, college, pro, whatever it is, I'm a big believer in being where your feet are at and just making the most of that opportunity to be the best version of ourselves. We talk to our players all the time about, and I struggle with the word role, but whatever your purpose is on the team, but whatever your purpose is, be the best version of that. I think a lot of times, people get either too fast moving, meaning they're worried about the next job and they don't do a great job in the job they're in, or they live in the past too. And, this is what I did, and talk about all the things that really don't matter to the current students that you're dealing with. So I try to stay in the present and maximize everything and let doors open or close based off of that.
Well, you've done a fantastic job with it, because, your background, you've worked with Larry Eustace, I believe,
Yep.
at one point.
6 years at the University of Southern Mississippi with Coach Eustace. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Larry Eustace is one of the better minds in the basketball game, in my opinion. And then obviously you've been with Fred at Nebraska, but you were also with Fred Hoiberg in the Bulls organization. Can you talk a little bit about that Windy City Bulls opportunity that you were the head coach of in the G League?
Yeah, absolutely. I spent my last 2 years at Iowa State with Fred, and we had a heck of a run there. Had a lot of guys that made it to the NBA. Maybe not these 5-star guys, but guys like Monte Morris, Matt Thomas, George Niang, Abdul Nader, Bryce Dejon Jones, a lot of guys, Deontay Burton, guys that had to take maybe a different path, but were able to be successful at the next level. We had a great run for 2 years there at Iowa State, and then when Fred got the job with the Bulls, he asked if I could come with him. And the first year I was his video guy, which was actually a great experience for me, because in the NBA, at the end of the day, the head coach is in charge of the gym and coaches get to coach. Or for me, I was able to work with guys if it was one-on-one, or jump in and help, getting a chance to rebound or pass or work a little bit with Derrick Rose, Pau Gasol, Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson, like Kirk Heinrich. I mean, a lot of guys get to see how they work as pros, especially after I was in a situation where I was helping kind of develop guys. But, you know, different guys are in different settings. And for me to be able to help Fred with the Bulls that first year, but also get a chance to see how some of these guys worked, it was just a great experience. And then the next year, you know, I was doing everything. We had just traded Jimmy Butler. We were getting, or sorry, this is still the first year 2. We had just signed Dwayne Wade. We were trying to get Rajon Rondo. We had Jimmy coming back, and I had every intention that second year of being up with a big club, being with Fred, and just kind of enhancing my experiences that second year. And then late in August, someone in the front office with the Bulls just said, "Hey, look, we've interviewed a few people for the Windy City Bulls job. Here's the deal. Here's how much it is. You have 48 hours, decide if you want it or not, but we'd love to, we think you'd be a good fit to be the head coach for the Windy City Bulls in their inaugural season." So talk about, you know, just kind of a change of path but unbelievable opportunity for me. And I mean, I'll be the first to admit, like, if I didn't have that early experiences being a high school coach, plan and practice for baseball, for basketball, like, that was huge. Because I mean, we're talking about an expansion team. You know, I have the basketball up above my ear, the first win in franchise history, a pretty cool thing. I mean, it's, you know, our first practice at the Sears Center at Windy City Bulls, I'll never forget, like, they didn't have nets on the rims. And I remember the president coming up to me being so excited because the court was ready and the hoops were up and we were going to have our first practice. And I'm like, "Yeah, but there's no nets." He's like, "Well, do you need nets?" I said, "Yeah, we're going to need those nets." So, but just a chance to, like, you know, put in some of the lessons that I had already had. But I think one of the things that, even though, and we talked about me being in that role, I always try to give input. I try to always act. I try to be the type of person that I would want working for me if I was a head coach, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
And if you think and you operate and if you provide input to your head coach and you really try to put yourself as best as you can in their shoes, then I think it's easier to make those decisions. Because when you move, as you know, like, difference between opinions into now you got to make that ultimate decision as a head coach, that's a much different lens to be under. And you talk a lot about, you know, just calling the timeouts, talking in the huddle, all those things. Like, as assistant coaches, it's easy to be like, "Oh yeah, it's so easy if I decide." But as you know, when you're in that top spot, everything falls on you, and it all comes back in your lap. So getting that opportunity at an early age as a high school coach, obviously it wasn't pros or anything like that, but I was training myself for that opportunity. So when that opportunity came up, it was awesome, man. It was the same thing. I mean, it's 50-game season. We had 27 different players that year. I had guys that had never played professional basketball, all the way to a guy like Will Bynum, who was 35 years old, trying to get one last 10 days. So you got guys coming in and out. You know, your players are free agents. Like, they don't like, we had 6 different Bulls on assignment. You know, we got Bobby Portis, Denzel Valentine coming down. Nobody wants to be in that league per se, but yet, how do you teach these guys how to be professional? How do you make everybody from coaches on down, you know, be where their feet are at and take advantage of the situation they're in, whether they want to be in it or they don't, and just make the most of it. And it was awesome, man. I really had a good time doing it. It was great for me personally and professionally. And just like any step that I've had on my path, it's just something that I think that you never know when it can be drawn back and help whatever the situation you're in now.
Well, I tell you, with the way that the college game has shifted so rapidly here in the last few years, I'm sure your experience will aid you in developing chemistry quickly with the quick roster turnovers that we're seeing now in college basketball. Coach, I want to go through We'll talk about your returners, but I want to talk about some of the newcomers that you guys have because, again, you guys are very busy in the off season, and it was a little bit under the radar, but you've got some really nice additions. Can we run through each of them, and you just give me your thoughts and what you think they can bring to the team? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, as you even talk about that, you got to remember Fred, even at Iowa State, was doing a lot of transfers back in the day too. Now
Yes, he was.
we had some solid freshmen too, like Monte Morris, George Niang, Melvin Edgem. Those guys were freshmen, but I think Fred in general has been kind of really good at being able to mix and match guys, and so there's been an element of maybe we have a little bit, whether it was back when he was from his professional days in the front office and playing, but then also our time in Chicago, and then now in Nebraska as well.
Okay. Let's take a look. So the first two players, viewers, you all recognize, Kyrie Segan from Wisconsin and Gavin Griffiths from Rutgers. Give me your thoughts on those two guys, Coach, and what you think they can bring in. What are you looking for them to improve upon? Maybe that's a better question.
Well, I think first and foremost, especially those two, there's always corporate knowledge isn't exactly the right, but these guys know what the Big Ten looks like. You got Connor with two laps in the league, and you got Gavin with one lap. So they've got an element of what Big Ten play looks like, at least in the past. And obviously with these new teams coming into the league, but they have an element. They've been on the road. They've played in a Big Ten road game. So that's always a big plus. They're two guys that can shoot the ball. And as we know with Coach Hoiberg's system, I mean, we value shooting and guys that can make baskets in a variety of ways. And both of these two guys do. And I think both of these two guys, just like anything, they've got some experience, but they've got some potential in them as well. I mean, Gavin's played 1 year, Connor's had 2, but battled some injuries and things like that in year 2, but still, I mean, shoot, in today's day and age, he's still a young college basketball player as well. So both Connor and Gavin, have that ability to space the floor and to run a lot of the stuff that Coach wants to do, especially offensively.
Am I wrong, Coach, or is Gavin Griffiths just scratching the surface of what he's able to do? I mean, he's close to 6'8", is very athletic and a streaky shooter. Am I wrong in saying that? Because I don't hear a lot of people talking about him in that way.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, he's a live body. I mean, he wants to get better. He loves the game. He puts in the work. But I mean, yeah, to your point, to find a guy, positionless basketball has become kind of a bit buzz term, but I believe we play that way. His ability to shoot, pass, and dribble, and being at 6'8", and then even defensively. I mean, obviously, from coming from a program like Rutgers and what they believe in, especially defensively, he's been taught, obviously, and now, I mean, just like anything, you're better a lap around the sun too. So he's got more experience in the jump. I mean, it's still a jump, but going from high school to pro, I mean, that was going back to the pro league. You go to the NBA, everybody talks NBA or G League. It's a different ball. It's a different length. The line is different, and you're going against different bodies. So I don't care who you are. It's an adjustment. That's why so many of these freshmen McDonald's All-Americans have moved around too. It's not for lack of ability or lack of upside or potential, but it is an adjustment. And you can already see that he's got his floor has moved up and he's got a high ceiling.
That's good to hear. And I'm looking forward to seeing those two because I got to know Connor a little bit when he was at Wisconsin. A fine young man. Really enjoyed him. And, I'm looking forward to seeing those two bust out in some other familiar red Big Ten jerseys with the Nebraska Huskers. Berke Bullion Tunsil, and I will get it before the season starts. Big fella from UCLA. It looks like he can face up and shoot, a rugged body with the left hand. And, he looks like he's pretty physical down the post as well. Can you shed some light on what Berke will bring to your team this year?
Yeah, another guy that's, positional size as a front court guy, good length, can shoot, pass, and dribble, has a skill set for both. Again, going to be with a year of experience under his belt and all those things, and again battled some early season injuries and just some choppiness that some freshmen go through and with an adjustment. But I mean, he's playing overseas right now for his country. He did it last summer as well, so he's played some pretty high level basketball. And I mean, he's a guy that, again, like high skill level, competitive, wants to get better, and again, just with 1 year, he's gonna that floor is going to move up, and he has an unbelievable ceiling as well. And is a guy that we've the last 2 years, our big man has led us in assists. So whether he's a 4 or 5 or what that looks like, I mean, as you've seen from covering our games, we like to invert the floor, and depending on matchups, we want to have versatility and flexibility, and he's just one of those guys that's that a guy like Coach Hoiberg just really likes to have as a part of our program.
And what I want to share with our viewers is that you guys really got bigger. Burke is 6'9". Andrew Morgan from North Dakota State is 6'10". What will it look like? Andrew's comfortable facing the floor as well. What do you expect from him? Yeah,
I think you're exactly right. I mean, if you look at our squad last year with Josiah Alec and Rink Mast at the 4 or 5, and then even going with our wings with Juwan Gary and with Bryce Williams. I mean, in the Big Ten, you got to have some size. And that doesn't mean every night it's got to be big, but if your roster has the ability to be flexible, to be versatile, because as we know, I mean, night in, night out, different teams play different ways. This goes a little bit to my football background, but you better stop the run in football in the Big Ten, and you better protect the paint in the Big Ten first. So there's an element of being able to do that. So being big offensively, being able to pound the glass offensively, but I think especially defensively too, to have some of that positional size and length is critical in our league as well. So there was some intentional to all that, the method to the madness, whatever you want to say. So adding some of those bigger bodies as well will be beneficial for our program.
Yeah, and then Braxton Mia, the 7'1" center coming from Washington, and then Raleigh Worcester. I hope I'll get it right before the season. Looks like comes in from Utah coaching. Really looks like he's one of those guys that you look and you watch play, and he's not going to overwhelm you. But then he's probably got 16, 8, and 7 on the scoreboard. Looks like an elite passer, guy that likes to get downhill. What can you share with us about Raleigh Worcester?
Yeah, no, first it's interesting. You look at Burke at UCLA and Raleigh at Utah and Braxton at Washington. There's a level of some of the Pac-12 corporate knowledge too, like we talked about with the Big Ten as well. So I'd love to say that was completely intentional, but that wouldn't necessarily be exactly the case. But it also, I mean, I think there's an element of, experience. I mean, Raleigh, to your point, especially has played in a lot of basketball games, and you start looking at our roster the last couple of years, and especially as we've built this thing out, getting guys as well that have played college basketball and are older, and Raleigh fits that mold. I mean, he's just a tough, competitive, great size for a point guard. Is not going to be rattled by the moment, things like that. And you can already see just the presence he has as a leader. He's a football guy too in high school, and some of his quarterback and things like that comes out in different ways, as well as kind of one of those floor generals. I mean, if you look at last year, I mean, Bryce and even Jamarcus were thrown into almost the point guard duties last year. And to have a guy like Raleigh who's played a lot of point guard minutes at the college level is going to be a big benefit for our team and system.
And then you got the returners. You got a nice nucleus back in Bryce Williams, Juwan Gary, Rink Mask, and Sam Hoiberg. Without giving up trade secrets, what are your expectations? What are the expectations the coaching staff have put on these returners?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sharing anything that's different, but obviously Rink has already shared that he's had off-season knee surgery, so he's going to be leaned on in a different way. His voice and his experience and the way he thinks the game has already been helpful for him in some of these new front court guys like Andrew and Braxton, like we talked about. So he's going to have some knowledge for them. That's going to be good. But then you start looking at Bryce, Jawan, and Sam. Obviously those are, three guys that were in our top 6 or 7 last year that won a lot of games for us. I was say this, not only have they won Big Ten basketball games, which is critical, but they've won on the road, which took us a little while to do last year. But there's a difference, as we know, winning on the road in the Big Ten. So have an element of what that looks like. So like we talk a lot about being coach led, but player and being player driven. It starts being coach led, but ultimately when you start getting your guys to take over and lead the culture that way, and some of the same lessons that they've had to go through, and they're able to help the learning curve with the new guys, whether they're veteran new guys or new guys. Like there's just a level of buy-in and comfort that those guys have, because now it isn't so new. And we talk corporate knowledge in the conference, but talk about for our program, they know what Coach Hoiberg wants. They know defensively what it's going to take night in and night out. And, you look at Bryce and Jawan, those are 2 very versatile players, good size, defensively able to cover a lot of ground. And then again, guys that can shoot, pass, and dribble have thrived with Coach Hoiberg's system. And then, Sam, just a guy that makes winning plays, and kind of that change of pace back sometimes that can come in and stir things up, especially defensively. Knows who he is, knows who he isn't, and knows how to not get caught up in the moment. So obviously the blend of those core guys with those guys that we already mentioned, it's been a good gym this summer. I think everybody likes their team at this time of year, obviously, but it's been a good competitive gym and a good mix of competitive guys that want to continue to raise the bar.
Well, if I got to go to the Austin neighborhood in the west side of Chicago to play a pickup game, I'm getting that junkyard dog, Juwan Gary, to come with me, man. I don't know if there's a tougher kid in the league. You talk about battling through injuries. He seems to have this wonderful spirit about him. Every time I'm around him, he's upbeat. I watch him with his teammates. They seem to gravitate towards him. Am I accurate in my assessment of Juwan Gary?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element with him. I think there's a lot of you hit on a lot of the things that everybody sees in the games and things like that. And if I was to share maybe something about him, like he's a guy, especially in these last 2 years, that is, this team has taken some harder coaching, and he's taken harder coaching, and he is a guy that takes the coaching and that becomes a leadership by example. If you're able to be coached, not be separated, and it doesn't matter whose role it is or who it is, if he's willing to take correction and instruction, like that's good peer pressure that way too. And I know it. He doesn't want to disappoint Fred. He doesn't want to disappoint myself, and those are important qualities to have, because if it shows that, I'm not going to be rattled, I'm going to be here. To your point, maybe some of that dog mentality, but just you need to have that on your team. You need to have guys that are not afraid of the moment, that when it's time to step up, want to be there. And we're proud of the steps that Juwan has made since he's been here. Obviously the talent's been there, but just attacking each and every day and being a guy that's more and more consistent for us is what we want out of all these guys.
And lastly, Coach, before I let you get out of here, I want to get an update on Aaron Eulis. What's his status, and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, he's been, he practiced last year. He's with us, and he'll have this year. And I think when you're talking about Raleigh and him, you got 2 guys again, like, Aaron's played in the Big Ten and 2 years there and has experience, and also now has some experience in our program after being with us for a year. So Aaron's just, he's got a way, a little bit like Juwan, the same way, can coach him, and he's been around. He won't, get in his feelings, for lack of a better term. He's able to take coaching. He's been raised that way. He believes that way. So it's, I thought, when you said we're going to the west side of Chicago to play a pickup game, I thought you were going to talk about maybe him as well. Maybe I can come with you too, so we can go there too. So, but no, I mean, he's a guy that we're fortunate to have in our program, and we're looking forward to seeing what he's able to do and bring to our team this year.
Well, Coach, is there anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't touch on here this afternoon?
No, I know this. I know, at least from my standpoint, like what you do for Big Ten basketball, what you do, and I know this is your deal and your podcast, but it's important how much you care about this league and how much you care about these programs, instead of just showing up and talking about these guys. Like, I mean, for the listeners and the people that are in this podcast or broadcast, whatever it may be, like, Stephen, you're a big advocate of our league, and I know from the coaching side we appreciate that, and it just trickles down to the players and everything. And it just like anything, when you got good people that are promoting programs and doing things right way, it makes it fun to be around guys like you. So thank you, and appreciate what you do for our league and our team.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Coach. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Nebraska assistant coach Nate Linder. And Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate you as always. And thanks for thinking of us and thinking of me specifically, and appreciate you.
Okay, hold on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was, hold on. I can get this right. Here we go. Yeah, that was assistant coach Nate Linder of Nebraska. And I think you guys understand now why this guy is really, I got my stuff mixed up here. What am I doing? Yeah, I want to thank Nate Linder from Nebraska. Very insightful interview. He gave us a lot of great insight to the psychology and approach of some of the players. And I think that's the part where I'm really enjoying interviewing these assistant coaches from the Big Ten, because they give you certain insights. And I think they're a little bit more comfortable giving these insights as opposed to head coaches, because they're dealing with so much, and they're so used to interviewing that they give you the top level answers. And then sometimes they'll dig deep, but the assistant coaches kind of give you some a little bit different take and more insight. So I really think that these assistant coaching interviews are really rich with a lot of information. So thank you very much, Nate Linder, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Next up, guys, this is a guy that I respect as much as anybody in our business. Jon Rothstein. He does a fantastic job with CBS Sports, and he's got his own site called College Hoops Today with Jon Rothstein. And so Jon did a series about the Big Ten Conference. This is his Big Ten rankings right here. He also had first team preseason Big Ten. He had impact transfers. He had impact freshmen, and he had breakout stars. So I encourage you guys to go to collegehoopstoday.net, and that's Jon Rothstein's site. Does a fantastic job. But I was a little surprised at some of these guys, and I want to get your take on it. First off, Northwestern at 13. That's a head scratcher for me, ladies and gentlemen, because when you look at Northwestern, they returned 4 starters. From the last 2 seasons, Northwestern was second and third in the Big Ten. Now, I know Boo Buie is a huge loss, but these guys know how to win. Brooks Barnheiser, my man, the 2 guard that got hurt. He hurt his knee. God, I knew I was going to Ty Berry. Those 2 guys, along with Matthew Nicholson, Luke Hunger, and some of the other guys that they brought in, they're not going to be 13th in the Big Ten, in my opinion. So I think that Northwestern's a little low. I would have put them in the top 6 or 7 based on the experience they have coming back. And again, guys, based on the fact that we know that the Big Ten is going to change this season with the addition of 4 teams, but these guys they've learned how to win on the road. And yes, again, Boo Booey was a big part of what they were doing, but they've got a certain DNA now, do the Wildcats, that they're going to be tough. And I just don't see them being 13th out of an 18-team league. That's just me. Illinois at number 8. I don't know if John hasn't seen JK. I'm gonna get this dude's name one of these days. JK looks like a revelation. He's playing very well in international competition right now, and he's been on campus. We've seen clips. He just looks so poised and in control. Boswell looks like he's in good shape. Ivicic is on campus now. Will Riley is on campus now. I think Illinois has too much talent to be preseason number 8. That's just me. We talked about them the last couple of weeks, so I don't need to go in depth about that. But that surprised me that he had Illinois at the 8th position. And then Maryland at number 6. One of the things that Maryland struggled with last year was 3-point shooting. Now, I know they've got some dynamic guys coming in, transfers that are coming in at the guard and wing position, but I don't know that those guys are knocked down 3-point shooters. And here's why I say that. When you've got 5-star center Derek Queen coming in, it looks like Darren Queen will be at the 5, Juju Reese will be at the 4, or they'll flip them. Just depends. But with 2 bigs on the floor like that, you're going to need spacers. Floor spacers, similar to what Indiana struggled with last year. When you have Malik Renew, and then you've got Khalil Ware up front, you got 2 bigs. You need guys to space the floor, and Indiana didn't have that last year, so they struggled. Maybe some of these transfers will emerge as consistent 3-point shooters, but if they don't, Maryland will have a similar quandary, if lack of a better word, that Indiana had last season with teams will pack it in and they'll struggle in their half-court offense without 3-point shooting. So Maryland number 6 was a little high to me. I was a little bit surprised by that. But again, I love Jon Rothstein's work. I respect him as much as anybody in this business. And so go check out his post, his site, because he really does a great job of interviewing people and also having – breaking down preseason looks on all the conferences. He doesn't, he's covering the country, and John busts his tail. He gets to practices, he's going to practices right now. So this is a guy that works hard. He's got great information. He's tied into the business, and I thought this was an interesting preseason ranking for Big Ten teams. And it's going to be a hard one to do. I'm going to do one. I'm going to wait maybe to September. I'm going to give myself a little bit more time. But I love the fact that we can talk about this, and I'm sure you guys will have your thoughts and ideas about this as well. But kudos to Jon Rothstein for breaking that down for us. Okay. Let's see where we at. Ooh. All right. So, guys, the NCAA went and upgraded the number of scholarships from 13 to 15 for men's college basketball. I think the ladies stay the same. They were at 15. They stay at 15. But NCAA is increasing the scholarships for men's basketball from 13 to 15. Now, how do you guys think these teams will utilize these spots? So for me, I think this helps incoming freshmen. It gives a boost to incoming freshmen once again. It was going to cycle back towards incoming freshmen, not as much as it was before the transfer portal has opened up the way it has. I think teams will get really good freshmen that they can develop. It will look a lot like the Purdue Boiler program, where Matt Painter and his staff are able to attract high-quality freshmen every year, and they get some of them to redshirt, so that they can develop a pipeline of players that they can depend on for years to come in this volatile nature of what has become college basketball. So I think a lot of teams will utilize this to get freshmen in. Some teams will utilize it to get as many transfers in as they possibly can. But the situation there, in my opinion, is if you're getting a player that you think is good enough to come to a Big Ten program, from wherever, it doesn't really matter. They typically, Big Ten programs, SEC programs, Big 12 programs are going to get players that have proven themselves at another level or at the same level, but coming to a different program. And so the problem with this, though, I think, is that it's tough enough to keep players who aren't getting enough playing time happy. And so if you've got a really talented roster, like throughout the whole roster, you're going to have some chemistry issues, I believe, if you're trying to fill those additional 2 slots with only transfer players. Because transfer portal players are wanting to come in and play. They're wanting to come in and get money. They're wanting to have an impact. And generally, these transfers, they don't have a ton of eligibility left. So I think it's going to be a fine line of how coaches can bring these additional two slots in and how they utilize them. But if you do bring in these 2 additional transfers, in my opinion, you better be Phil Jackson-like and be able to really tap into their mind and motivate them at a deeper level to get them to buy into what you're trying to do. Because if you don't, I think it could be a tough mix. But what do you guys think? To me, I think the NCAA is adding these scholarships additionally as a way to share the revenue that they're now required to share with college athletes. So it serves several purposes. I like the move. I hope most of the teams will really go back to being much more aggressive with the high school players. The high school recruiting was going to pick up after 2025 anyway, because that's the last year of that extra COVID year eligibility. So I think it was going to pick up anyway. I don't know that it was going to return back to what it was pre-transfer portal, but hopefully it will increase, because we've seen a lack of high school players being recruited like they once were. And so I think that this is a measure that can benefit a lot of different people, transfer portal players, incoming freshmen from the high school level. It gives extra room, extra opportunity, and I like that, because you guys know me at Bardo's Breakdown. I'm pro player all day long, baby. All right. So next up, we've got the next 5 in the Bardo's Breakdown top 50 Big Ten players ever. And boy, do we've got good players every time. But I think the reason why I'm pretty hyped about this one is because I played against 2 of these guys. I know these guys very, very well, and I know the other ones as well. First up, Dennis Hobson. You talk about scoring a phone booth. Woo! Dennis Hobson of Ohio State. I tried to guard him my freshman year. Ken Norman did a great job of helping stand him up, coming off those staggered screens to try to give me time when I got hung up on picks. I love Ken Norman for that. Love Doug Altenberg and Tony Weisinger, my senior teammates, because they tried to help me contain Dennis. And I got credit for holding Dennis Hobson down when we played him. But it wasn't just my effort. It was the effort of my seniors that really helped me fight through these screens and knew that Dennis was a walking bucket. And I had success against him as a freshman, guarding him, but a lot of it had to do with my senior teammates. But first team All-American, Big Ten Player of the Year, 1987, is still the leading scorer in Ohio State Buckeye history. Guys, that's saying something, because Dennis played about the same number of games that I did. The players in this current era get extra games. They get extra opportunities to score. So the fact that Dennis is still the all-time leading scorer, I won't say how long that is, but it's a long time, y'all. It's decades. 2,096 points. I believe he's like 40 points ahead of Herb Williams. And he's number 3 pick in the 1987 NBA draft. Dennis Hobson, great guy. Love him. Very gregarious, outgoing, good dude, and was a hell of a basketball player and a very good coach right now. I think he's still coaching at the Division II level somewhere in Ohio, I believe, the last time I checked. So big ups to Dennis Hobson for being on one of the top 50 players in Big Ten history. This next guy right here, he was one of the most underrated players in Big Ten history. Etwan Moore of Purdue gets overlooked often by his teammates, Jawan Johnson, Robbie Hummel, because those are 2 great players, but those three guys were the baby boilers. They came in and really kind of turned the program around, in my opinion. And E'Twaun Moore was an outstanding player. You're talking about the third Big Ten player to tally 2,000 points, 500 rebounds, and 400 assists. You see Steve Smith and Taylor Battle are the only two other Big Ten players to do that. E'Twaun Moore was third-team All-American. He was a 55th pick in the second round in the NBA draft, but he went on to have a great NBA career. And so E'Twaun Moore, in my opinion, one of the most underrated Big Ten players ever, one of the most efficient and effective Big Ten players ever. He is one of my top 50 all-time Big Ten players from Purdue, E'Twaun Moore. Excellent, excellent guard. This next young man, thank goodness that I only had to play against him one season in my senior year because Jimmy Jackson was a handful. Jimmy Jackson of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Big, strong, had a pro body as a freshman. Two-time All-American, two-time Big Ten Player of the Year, National Player of the Year in 1992, and the number 4 pick by the Dallas Mavericks in the 1992 NBA draft. I don't know if you guys remember, Jimmy Jackson held out, so he missed the majority of his rookie season with the Dallas Mavericks. But a big body wing, could shoot the rock from distance, could put it on the deck, put them big boulder shoulders on him to create the space. He could get in the lane. He's a smooth brother to this day. One of the better college basketball and NBA commentators in the business. Doing a great job with the Big Three. He does games with the Los Angeles Clippers. He does games, I believe, with NBA TV and TNT. You guys have seen him on Fox quite often in studio and doing some of the bigger Fox games. He and Robbie Hummel are two of the go-to guys, and Bill Raftery for the top games on the Fox Sports networks. Jimmy Jackson, outstanding player, had a tremendous NBA career. I mean, he bounced around quite a bit, but I think he got 15 or 16 years in the NBA. Jimmy Jackson, outstanding guard from Michigan State. All right, we got an Oregon Duck in the house. Luke Jackson, big 6'7" guard, could do a lot of different things. Was All-American in 2004. One of 2 Pac-12 players that scored 1,900 points, 700 rebounds, and 400 assists. And he was the 10th pick of the NBA draft in 2004 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Luke Jackson played with Ridenour. What was Ridenour's first name? Tough guard. And also Fred Jones. Those 3 guys played at Oregon together. They all played in the NBA. So those are some outstanding Oregon Duck teams. And Luke Jackson was a stat stuffer and had a good career in his own right. He had some injuries early that kind of curtailed, I think, his pro career, but he was a tough big wing from Oregon and All-American in 2004. Luke Jackson makes our top 50 Big Ten players of all time. And then this last one, I think it goes without saying. Hold on. Let me see here. I made it as a ticker. Didn't mean to do that. We don't need to scroll as a ticker. There we go. Magic Johnson led the Spartans to the national championship in 1979. He was the number 1 overall pick by the Lakers in that same year, and arguably the best point guard in the history of the game. I don't think we need to go into great detail about Magic. Anytime you are referred to by one name, you hear Magic, Bird, Serena, Tiger, Kobe, LeBron. You know, when you have one name and people recognize who you are, that you're one of the greats. It goes without saying. Magic Johnson, definitely one of the top 50 Big Ten players of all time in in Big Ten history. All right, now here we go, y'all. Let's get ready. We're about to have some fun. I'm hoping I'm going to get this. So we're going to run this poll during the time that I talk about the Flyin Illini stories, because you got 3 minutes to be involved with this poll, okay? Remember, I told you, go to Kahoot.it if you want to do the web browser, because I think that's a little bit better. Their app is still a little, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So go to Kahoot.it or download the Kahoot app right now. I'll give you about 30 seconds so you guys can do this, because I want you guys to be I want this to become a weekly part of the show. It's going to be one of the segments of the show, and we'll have these nice polls because we can do a lot of different things with this. And so this first one, let me add to the stage. All right, here we go. So, come on now. I knew this was y'all bear with me here. Is it gonna happen? Bear with me, y'all. I'm gonna go in here. You're gonna see me do it live because we're gonna get this thing rocking, baby. Hold on. Let me stop sharing for a minute. Okay. Host live is loading. Start. Okay. Let me cut the sound off. Let me start this. Come on now. Y'all, they don't want me to be great. What is going on, Kahoot? Man, I'm not this bad with technology, y'all. I'm telling you. I don't understand what is going on here, but bear with me. Oh, I'm going to be hot if I can't get this to go. Hit start. I hit start. Man, shoot. I'm about to be hot as fish grease over here. Let me cut this off. And then I'm going to share this screen because it's a really cool thing, man. Yeah. Bear with me. We're going to try this last time here. Starting. Kill the mic. Kill the mic. All right, hit start. Why is the start button not going? Come on, Kahoot. All right, well, I'm going to get this at some point, y'all. Let's move on to the Flyin Illini stories. All right. So during the formation of the Flyin Illini, oh man, I'm hot as fish grease. I tested this thing 3 times a day. And why this? Okay, here we go. I think I got it. So, where's my present? I think I got it, y'all. Hold on. Bear with me. All right. So, can you see that on the screen? If you're logged in, the game, go to kahoot.it or go to Kahoot app and type in the game pin. And so what's going to happen is we're going to see players pop up. We'll see you guys pop up and what you share inside of this poll. Okay, Punky's joined. All right, so here we go. You guys see it. Starting, here we go. We got the poll. Can you guys see this? Rank these Big Ten coaches on the screen. And so it's 3 minutes. So while we're waiting on the results of this, I'll tell you about the Flyin Illini stories. So Nick Anderson and Irvin Small were Proposition 48 casualties back in 86, 87, our freshman year. If you guys don't remember, Proposition 48 was an academic rule that the NCAA instituted that you needed a minimum score on the SAT or ACT or a minimum of a grade point average or a combination of the both, right? And so, unfortunately, Nick Anderson and Irvin Small, coming out of Simeon High School, I don't know if they were alerted early enough to understand that they had to have these core curriculum courses. And I think that was the thing that tripped them up. It wasn't that they weren't intelligent enough. I don't think that their school counselors gave them enough leeway. So when Proposition 48 came out, my dad, being a college professor, knew what was coming down the pipeline. He was also on some NCAA boards and committees. And so he knew this legislation was coming down the pipeline. And so he knew that it was going to catch a lot of student athletes, in particular students of color. It was going to catch them off guard because a lot of these these school counselors just didn't have the information. So Nick and Irvin could practice with us, but they couldn't play and they couldn't travel. And so it was really tough on these guys because, when you want to be a part of a team and you're coming in as a freshman, you're coming in from the city of Chicago, you're coming to a college campus, which is a new experience, a new environment. You're dealing with different people that you've not dealt with. And so I know that Nick and Irvin were very isolated, and it was jacked up because I don't know if they could even go to training table once the season started. I can't remember if they could go or not, but it just felt like there was a disconnect between them. And so they would come to practice and they would go crazy because this was their opportunity to feel connected with the team and show what they could do and improve on their skills. But they were the first year of this being instituted. And so they were coming back and trying to figure out, the NCAA was in these schools, how to deal with these players. And if you guys remember, the next year, Marcus Liberty was Proposition 48 as well. And he was alone and he really struggled. And so it was tough. I was glad that Irvin and Nick had each other because Marcus really struggled with the process because he was the only player that was a Proposition 48 casualty. And so it was very difficult for him to, deal with this situation. And so we're almost done with the poll here, but let me finish the story. So the fact that Nick Anderson and Irvin Small became such productive members of the Flyin Illini program, despite being Proposition 48 casualties, to me was a testament to their inner strength, their character, and their willingness to go through the process to be a part of something special. So big ups to Nick Anderson, Irvin Small, and Marcus Liberty, all for being Proposition 48 casualties. No, I shouldn't say casualties. Proposition 48. They were victims, I would say, of that, but yet still were able to become highly successful members of the Flyin Illini and Flyin Illini basketball program. So big ups to them. All right, so let's check out the live poll and see. Let me see if I can get rid of myself altogether. There we go. And so now we had 3 people participate. I know it's kind of funky, and I apologize for not having it down pat, but it looks like Matt Painter got 2 votes. Tom Izzo got 1. So that was our inaugural. Hold on. That was our first poll here. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate you guys. And we will. Let me take that out. Remove from studio. And I'm going to get it here in a second. There we go. All right. So thanks for bearing with me, guys. Well, let's get to your call. Ooh, we got a lot of comments here. See, you guys are kind of waiting to get going today. Thomas Dagley says the Illini should be number 2 in that Big Ten preseason poll. And I can't disagree with Thomas. I don't know if I put him as high as 2 because, you've got Purdue, who will probably have the best returning backcourt in the Big Ten, in my opinion. They know how to win. You've got the Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren, Miles you go on and on. And then their 5-member incoming freshman class is outstanding. So I don't know if I put Illinois number 2, but I definitely put them higher than number 8. Al Nash, Mr. Bardo, a few shows ago, you were talking about Moneyball Pro-Am. I went last 2 weeks for 2 games. Xavier Booker, a tiny bit bigger, but Bardo, he needs a motor. He he lacks it. Okay, Al, here's the thing. You got to temper what you see in these summer leagues because the coaches aren't around. Guys trying to get their games on. They might go into certain games trying to have an intention in working on specific things. So I'm glad he's a little bit bigger. I heard he's worked his tail off. He's probably not going to be a guy that's going to look like Miles Bridges about the body. But as long as he's getting stronger, that's the most important thing. And I think that his confidence. So as long as he's getting stronger, as long as he's developing his confidence, I think you'll see that motor come, because anybody's going to play for Tom Izzo. If you don't have a motor, you're not going to get on the floor. But thank you for that report, Al. I appreciate it. Al Nash also talked about Frankie Fiddler might be MSU's best one-on-one player for the Pro-Am, but sometimes we can't judge players. Good point, Al. Good point. I've heard good things about Frankie Fiddler. He can score it at Omaha, and he's got a big, strong body. He's an upperclassman, so he's got a lot of experience. I don't think he's going to be too. I don't think the lights will be too bright for Frankie at all. Come on now. Why is my... Okay, here we go. What the heck? My StreamYard is hurting, y'all. Let's see. Obviously, getting a 5-star level prospect like Will Riley was a great addition to the program. Are there any 5-star or top 50 players in 2025 that the staff is targeting that you know of? One of the Bougier's sons has mentioned that Illinois is interested in him. Carlos Bougier has 2 twins. One of his sons, I believe, is the number 2 player in the class, and then his other son is a top 30 kid as well. One of those players is being recruited by Illinois. I do know that. I know that the kid, the guard out of Lexington, Kentucky, I don't think he has Illinois in his top 5, but they were recruiting him. And he was a top 10 kid as well. So Illinois is in on some top, they're in on some top 50 kids. They're doing a great job in the recruiting circles as far as that's concerned. What's up, Chad Alt? I think Illinois has 3 now, 4 with Terrence in the league. Kendrick Nunn is now overseas. Can you see this number double in the next 2 years with this influx of new talent on the roster? JK looks like a NBA player. Will Riley can score it, and that lively body of his, he's only going to get stronger. Those 2 look like surefire pros to me. I've always thought Ty Rodgers has pro potential. That's 3. Ivicic, we'll have to see. Tomislav Ivicic, he looks like he's got a skill set. I don't know if athletically he's going to be athletic enough to play at the next level, but we'll see. He has a chance, though. Who else? I think Trey White has a chance. Trey White and Ben Humrickhouse. So that's 5 right there. 5 potential NBA players that I think could come off this current roster from the Illini. In terms of top 50 players, Fly Illini Fly says Kyle Brown Jr. is a top 50 kid that the Illini are in on. Thank you for that, Fly Illini Fly. Chad, I don't know about one and dones. They talk about JK being one. They talk about Will Riley being a one and done. I don't know. I got to see more. I have to see them play in an Illinois jersey a little bit more to make that proclamation. I'm not comfortable saying whether it be one and done yet, but we'll see. Fly line, fly. I like your tough questions, man. Preseason first team all Big Ten right now. Who will it be? I got Braden Smith at Purdue. I have Ace Bailey at Rutgers. I think this kid is going to be phenomenal. I know Harper is going to be great as well, but I think Ace Bailey is going to be he's going to be a phenom. So I like Braden Smith, Ace Bailey at Rutgers. Brooks Barnheiser from Northwestern. I really like him. I think he's going to be a top 5 player in the league. I like Ace Baldwin at Penn State. I think he'll be one of the top 5 players. And I like Umar Ballo at Indiana. I think he's just going to be dominant. at the center position. I don't know that Maryland with their front court of Juju Reese and Derek Queen might be able to match up. I'm scanning the conference in my brain, and Ohio State's got impressive length. Aaron Bradshaw, I don't know if he's got physically, I don't know if he can bang with Umar Ballo. I don't think his body's big enough, but athletically, he could give Ballo some problems. Purdue, Illinois with Ivisic and Morez Johnson up front. They've got good length. Could be interesting, but I don't think they have the offensive skills to match Ballo. So I like Ballo up front. So I like Ballo at Indiana, Braden Smith at Purdue, Ace Bailey at Rutgers, Ace Baldwin at Penn State, and the last one, Brooks Barnheiser from Northwestern. That would be my 5 preseason top 5 all Big Ten. Great question, though. Carol, yes. I thought you guys would appreciate Coach Nate Linder. Nate has the ability. He has the head coaching experience under his belt at different levels. So he's had to deal with different student athletes. He's had to deal with pros. He's gone different conferences, different levels. So he's got a really rich background. And I thought you guys would enjoy that. Thank you, Carol. Good to see you on YouTube. I see you. I see you growing. I see you elevating. Curtis Dietz bringing in TBT. Kentucky and Louisville going at it tonight. That's all. I don't care what they're doing. If they're playing spades, if they're playing blackjack, Kentucky and Louisville fans they're gonna go at it. So I have to check that out tonight. I love how you asked the coach about their players, especially with all the transfers in college. It is hard to remember who is where nowadays. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I just want to give you guys some insight, and I want you guys to be more knowledgeable Big Ten fans than any other place, because this is the only place I think that you're going to get Big Ten assistant coaches breaking down their teams for this upcoming season. I haven't seen anybody really doing this. I think the assistant coaches are great. I think they want to give a little bit more feedback. I think they like having the opportunity to get their names on another platform so people can become familiar with them, because when you become familiar with assistant coaches, these are going to be the next head coaches, ladies and gentlemen. So I think this is a key component for bringing us the information that we want to be more informed Big Ten fans. And for me, quite frankly, to be a more informed Big Ten commentator. I think it really benefits all of us. So thank you, Carol. Will Bailey and Harper be more productive this upcoming season? Feel like one of Rutgers' freshmen would be first team all Big Ten, and not both. I think they will be both all 10 big. I think they'll both be all 10 Big Ten freshmen. I do think Bailey has a chance to be all Big Ten first team as well. Will be more productive this upcoming season. I don't know if they can be more productive, fly line and fly, because they haven't played yet at the college level. Like the above person in the chat, I went to Moneyball Pro-Am and look out for Jace Richardson. He's the son of Jason Richardson. Don't do nothing great, but all things well. Okay, Kevin. Thanks for that intel. I'm looking forward to seeing Jace, because, boy, you guys remember how Jason Richardson was as a Michigan State Spartan. Oh, my gosh. One of the most exciting players in all of college basketball. Ron Charles saw a picture posted of me and Ced Ceballos and Adrian Goodson and Drew Goodman. What was that, a club? I see you're not scared to show them guns off. Good to see you, Ron. No, that was the Retired Players Association conference in Las Vegas. And so the WNBA, NBA, the Globetrotters, the former players can be a part of the Retired Players Association. So it was in Vegas. It was between breakout sessions. So we were at the pool they were enjoying cigars, because I'm not a cigar smoker, but I was definitely enjoying my red stripe. So that was a picture that we were out the pool and we caught up. We saw Drew walking by and we all got a picture with him. And so that's the picture that you saw. So yeah, man, I'm in shape. I try to stay in shape, Ron, because, you might get tried sometime. You might have to pull out the the horse game. I ain't playing nobody one-on-one, but I will play somebody in horse. So you got if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. But thank you for the compliment, my man. I appreciate you. That Rothstein guy said that we're 8th in the Big Ten. AVP DS, yes, that's low, but don't knock Jon Rothstein. Go follow him. If you really want to be knowledgeable about what's going on in college basketball, he's one of the best. And he's a friend of mine. I love the dude, but he works his tail. He busts his, you know what, and he gives great information. And he's well respected in the industry. Chad Alt, Illinois' non-conference schedule is brutal. Arkansas, Alabama, Duke, Tennessee, Missouri, and only Eastern Illinois and Oakland as probable wins. Ouch. Hey, Oakland's good. Greg Kampe is one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. I think you guys remember they beat Kentucky. Oakland they had 2 upsets. Kentucky and who else did they beat in the NCAA? They had 2 wins in the NCAA tournament, I believe. So yeah, very talented. So yeah, it's a brutal non-conference schedule, but you've got to get tests, Chad, because this is such a new roster. And it's not like you got a Terrence Shannon Jr. coming back. You don't have a leading scorer coming back. You don't have a Coleman Hawkins coming back that's do everything down on the floor that can lead. You've got your leading scorer is going to emerge from the transfer group that comes in. Probably your second leading scorer is going to emerge from that group as well. So you got a lot of unknowns, and so you got to have great tests to figure out what you're rocking with. Fly Illini fly. 8th is laughable. Maryland is better. Yeah, I didn't agree with Maryland being higher than Illinois, and I didn't agree with Illinois being 8th either. Okay, who ball? Scoop's gonna do a national one. Dan Hurley 1, Bill Self 2, Mark Few 3, Scott Drew 4, Kelvin Sampson 5, NATO 6, Matt Painter 7, Bruce Pearl 8, Rick Pitino 9, Tom Izzo 10. This is Field of 68's top 10 current college basketball coaches. Any problem with this list or who's missing? I saw that show by Field of 68, who also do a fantastic job. I believe John Fanta, Rob Dowster, and Terrence Oglesby was on that show and segment. And, it's a great list. I think that I'm surprised to see Nate Oates so high because his success has been recent. He had success at Buffalo. He's had success at Alabama. But I thought Nate Oates was a little bit high. I definitely think Brad Underwood could get some consideration. I think Fran McCaffrey needs consideration, quite honestly. But I didn't have any problem with this list. I didn't. I thought it was a great topic as well. Let's see. Got any pronunciation guys for KJ last name? Goodness, that might give Cooler and Garden and the rest of the crew fits. Nope. AVPDS, those 2 dudes and the guys that I work with, the people, I should say, Lisa Byington included, they're pros, man. They will figure it out. By the time they hit the broadcast and they've got to cover an Illinois game, they will have that thing down pat. Trust me. I'm the one that's having problems with it right now. I won't have a problem with it when the season starts either. That's what pros do. Flying Line, I fly was a good question. Wonder what the reasonable record of expectation should be in those 4 games. Duke, Alabama, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Well, Flying Line, I fly. If you come out of those 4 games with a 2-2 record, you ought to be feeling really good about yourself. If you come out with a 1-3 record against those 4 opponents, you should still feel pretty good about yourself. Obviously, if you go 0-4, you're not going to feel great, but you're going to get a lot of lessons, right? I can't see this new Illini team with so few games under their belt being able to win 3 or 4 of these games. I just don't see it. Now, it'd be a pleasant surprise if they did, but if they went 2-2 or 1-3, I would be happy with that. And I'm just going to be happy from not a college basketball commentator, but I've got my former Illinois player hat on. The beautiful thing is that Illinois will know who they are very soon, and they will know their strengths and weaknesses very quickly. And so that's the biggest benefit, in my opinion, from scheduling such a brutal non-conference. Oh, Flyin Illini said he said the best he can see is Yaku Shunis. Yaku Shunis. Okay, thank you for that. Ooh, CDI NIU, Curtis Deese. Great question. With these extra scholarships, does that mean there won't be any walk-ons anymore? I think there'll still be walk-ons. I don't think that's going to affect that. Purdue was over this year at one point, at least. Something to do with it, maybe. Our friends at Sleeper Media were talking about Matt Painter made a prediction that the scholarship limits are going to increase. And so he was not Nostradamus in that regard. Matt Painter was. And Kanan Catchings just got a big bag from BYU that he couldn't turn down. Had a chance to talk to his grandfather, Harvey Catchings, the former NBA great. He didn't give me a number, but it was substantial. And it was just the amount of money he just couldn't turn down. And BYU, the former NBA coach, Kevin, I think his name is Kevin Young or something like that, doing a fantastic job at BYU, getting quality transfers to come in. But Matt Painter was spot on when he anticipated this scholarship increase. Carol Paquette has a different opinion. Think having 15 scholarships is too much. Think 12 is perfect. Towards the middle of the season, coaches shorten their bench to 8 players. Correct. I see players transferring out because of playing time. There's no doubt about it, Carol. And they're going to have to really be careful how they utilize that because it's just it's tough. It's tough to keep that many players happy. You're right. Boy, my StreamYard is tripping today, y'all. Thanks for bearing with me. Let me see if I can get somebody else. Oh, here we go. I can see you mentioned Roy Marble at Iowa making your list. He was a baller. Rest in peace. And I hate Iowa. Chad, we'll see. But Roy Marble was a baller. Definitely one of the toughest players I ever played against. One of the best players in Iowa program history. That 2007 Indiana class, Eric Gordon, Etwan Moore, Robbie Hummel, Jawan Johnson, Jeff Teague, all in one class. Great class. I think Jeff Teague has a podcast out where he's talking to Etwan Moore, and Etwan Moore stole his scholarship to Purdue. I got to go back and watch it, but there was a headline that said that. So I want to definitely check that. Kyrie, I think Matt Painter and Tom Izzo are right there at the top of the top Big Ten coaches. I don't think there's any question about that. I think that's probably consensus around the board. Curtis, didn't you play in Dallas? Yes. Were you teammates with Jackson, Mashburn, and Kidd? No. I was supposed to play with Jimmy Jackson that first his rookie season. I was cut right before the deadline for salaries to become guaranteed for the rest of the year. And so Walter Bond was still on the team. He was actually starting 2-guard in place of Jimmy Jackson, who was holding out that whole time. So I did not get a chance to play with Jimmy Jackson, and I was ahead of Jamal Mashburn and Jason Kidd. Carol, yes, Hobson was 6'5" and could go. Ron Baker Jr. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate you, brother. Okay. Let's see. Mark Thomas. Hold on. Mark Thomas, brother Bardo. I'm relatively new to your show, so I'm not sure if you've spoken to this before. Why did Coach Collins not get the job when Lou retired? Mark, there was some, and welcome to the show. If it's your first time, welcome to Bardo's Breakdown. Two things: come strong to the whole and be respectful. That's it. Come strong with your opinions because we got a knowledgeable group here. All right. Coach Collins had some NCAA infraction rumors around him. He was never found guilty of anything improper. But the Bruce Pearl situation between Iowa and Illinois, I think really tainted Jimmy Collins and his ability to take over at Illinois after Lou recruited. And quite frankly, I don't think University of Illinois was ready for a black head coach. Lovie Smith became the first black head coach at the University of Illinois over football or men's basketball. They were one of the last Big Ten programs to do so. So that was in the mid-90s. University of Illinois program and school was not ready for a black head coach in one of the marquee sports. They just weren't. And so those are two of the reasons that I think that Jimmy Collins was not hired to take over for Lou Henson when Lou Henson retired. So I hope that gives you a little bit better insight. Hey, Doug, when you're working with new technology, I'm doing the best I can, bro. It'll improve. It will improve. But thank you for participating. I really appreciate it. Joe Stovall, tribe member, coming with some heat. Preseason polls are not the same as before due to the transfer portal, scheduling, and lack of confidence in the freshman players. The question for me is, who will be the alpha for Illinois like TSJ was? Joe Stovall was at the Bardo's Breakdown meetup in Champaign. Been rocking with me since day one. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you. Great question. The alpha for Illinois, I think, will be JK, Jasparis Yakunuit, whatever. JK, I think, will be the alpha. Because one, Joey's going to have the ball in his hands the majority of the time. He's crafty. He can score. He's just got a great sense for the game. I think he's going to be the alpha. I really do. Carol, I'll get better. I would definitely get better. Doug, I know Bruce Pearl. People hate Bruce Pearl. The dude can coach. He can coach. What he did at Milwaukee, what he did at Tennessee, and now what he's doing at Auburn, guys, I'm not going to get into it because that Illini fan base will never like Bruce Pearl, but he can coach. Now, this is interesting. Ryan Smith, owner of the Jazz, feeding BYU waters. So Flyin Illini Flies, in my opinion, is insinuating that the Utah Jazz are having something to do with BYU's suddenly being flush with NIL money. I happen to think it has something to do with the Mormon church as well, because the Mormon church is loaded and BYU is a Mormon institution. So I think that there is a perfect storm happening out with the BYU program. And thank you for that, Fly Illini Fly, with that bit of information. Let's see. Curtis D says, not getting Coach Collins as head coach hurt us for recruiting for years. Took us a long time to get talent from Chicago. Curtis, that's spot on. Yep. Fly Illini Fly agrees with me. Kasparis is the alpha. And Brad says, I got Ty Rogers being the alpha, but you might be right. Ty Rogers is certainly a candidate for that in Brats. So, guys, great show. Thank you for your input. Thank you once again to Nebraska assistant coach Nate Linder. He was excellent. Appreciate you guys joining the show. Don't forget, you can always join the tribe by texting 312-847-2739, or you can go to bardostribe.com and pick up your free copy of Triple Threat, Stephen Bardo's Guide to Basketball Terminology. Please join the tribe because it's growing. We're almost at 1,000 members on the newsletter, so that's growing quite nicely. And I'm revealing some of those membership levels here in the next couple of weeks. We're doing some back-end work on the site, but it'll be some exciting offerings to all of you who are interested in having a deeper dive with Bardo's Breakdown. Thanks so much for joining the show today, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Check back in with Bardo's Breakdown on Facebook and YouTube for certain clips from this show and maybe a surprise video or two. You never know, but check back with Bardo's Breakdown. Until next time, holla, y'all.